Hi, and welcome to Drones Down Under podcast. Evening, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Splendid, as always.
It's great. So excited
Always.
today. We got the Mavic 3 Classic launch. So want to get our initial thoughts on this one. And obviously just over my shoulder there, we've got the Mavic 3 Cine drone, and we've got the Mavic 3 Enterprise. And thought we'll just get together and talk through we haven't got the Classic yet in hand, but we'll have that shortly. But yeah, let's get the guys' thoughts. So just before that, just a reminder to our audience, we're still giving away 4 adult tickets for Wings Over Illawarra. So like we said on our last episode, just get on there, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Drones Down Under Podcast, and also just write in the comments field why you should get that ticket. And on Monday 7th, we'll select 4 to give that away. So hopefully you'll join and support the podcast. So I'll hand it to Danny.
It'll be a great event too.
Yeah, definitely. Was looking over the last year's footage, which is pretty cool. So Ty, you were in lockdown, but yeah, great.
I didn't get the pleasure last year, but I'm looking forward to it this year. And especially some of the planes, as much as we're in Drone World, some of the planes that are going to be there are pretty damn amazing. So I'll be keen to see them.
And some of the shit those pilots can do are unbelievable. It's gravity defying.
Insane.
And I'm actually really keen to see the drone racing as well, because it's something that really tickles my fancy. I'd love to have a crack. So it'd be interesting to have a good look.
Well, our tent's right next to them, so it's going to be pretty cool.
We're going to strap a GoPro on your head and you're going to be cutting sick in acro. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
you've had plenty of practice on the Avatar, haven't you?
Yes, plenty. Cool. All right.
Cool. So moving on from Wings Over Illawarra, jump on their website, get the address details, and hopefully can join us. So lads, let's get your initial thoughts on the Mavic 3 Classic. So Ty, you got your screen shared, and let's just go through some of those specs.
Well, I mean, for me, it's still that Hasselblad lens. The color and stuff that comes from it's amazing, but otherwise there's not huge amounts of changes. What are your thoughts, Danny?
I think it's a good cheap alternative with a bloody good camera. It's what, $500 Australian cheaper than the other version. It's a good place to get into it if you want a higher quality camera that can shoot. Was it 5.1K, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, 5.
You know, it's was it micro four thirds sensor, 20 megapixel, I think, from memory.
Yeah,
I'm sure the specs will show up on screen very soon.
Yeah, they will. And the 46-minute flight time is awesome. The obstacle sensing, the omnidirectional, that was introduced on the FPV first, wasn't it? I think from memory.
No, it's only got front and downwards. I think this is the first DJI drone to have complete 360.
Okay.
So it's taken one out of Skydio's book there, and they've actually got full 360, sensing, which is awesome, especially when you're using the APAS. It flies really differently. Then you turn off the APAS and it flies like a normal drone.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And I guess what's good is it's all consistent as far as the sensors across the range, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like as we've kind of talked about prior, all the Mavic 3s are very, very similar.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, the camera is the one thing that really excites me. I mean, I still think that's one of the best things they ever did on the Mavic 2 Pro. And I'm still yet to shoot with one personally. I know a lot of people that have, and they just think they're amazing. So this one does tickle my fancy a little bit due to that camera.
You have shot with him at the Mavic 3 Enterprise.
Yes, but it's still different. It's still different.
It all beats the Mavic 2. And I reckon the biggest selling point, for me personally, is that 12-bit RAW. Like, we were just saying before the episode, 68 billion colors. It's ridiculous.
That's it. And most standard drones are 8, I think you said too, Danny, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a huge upgrade in the color depth, which is awesome.
And 24 millimeter equivalent focal length, which is quite wide, so it's good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I mean, the colors are seemingly the one big thing they like to have a big talk about, and it's the color recognition is insane. A lot of the stuff you know, if you compare just sort of more of your standard, I guess, like your minis and the phantoms and things like that, one of the biggest criticisms I've always had is their color is horrible. It's either really oversaturated or really undersaturated. And the contrast has always been a bit average with these things.
A little note about that as well. The Mini 3 just got an update, so you can actually change the contrast, sharpness, and saturation. Okay. So like on the old DJI DJI Go 4 app, you can finally actually alter your images in camera.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. That's very handy, particularly for someone like you that gets into the creative side of things as well. I think that's something that's really important.
5.1K 50 frames.
Yeah.
And it's super sampled from 4K 60. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is some crispy footage.
Yeah. And it's going to give that, again, the people to do stuff a bit more slow-mo that they weren't able to do previously, which is awesome, particularly with the 4K 120 frames a second.
120 frames. That's awesome.
Which I guess that's still all the same specs as the Mavic, the standard and the Cine as well. So yeah, I guess there's nothing really different there.
No. I mean, there's a lot of the features that are very similar to the previous Mavic 3s. But I mean, there's still an amazing drone.
So before we move on from there, can we just talk a little bit about what 10-bit and 8-bit, what the difference would be for people sort of getting into buying this type of drone? Why would they spend more money on something that has 10-bit D-Log as opposed to 8-bit?
It's the color recognition.
Yeah, I guess the easiest way of thinking of it is if you ever take a photo and you notice in the sky there's like these bands in the sky, that's usually 8-bit, possibly 10-bit. 10-bit that doesn't really have it.
No, not that much.
Yeah, 8-bit color, like you'll get out of your phone, will have banding through the sky. Or if you're trying to edit or change a white balance, it will just wig out. 10-bit and 12-bit, you won't notice that because there's more color in the data.
Yeah, correct. I was
it's a smoother transition.
Pretty much. In a nutshell.
I was just whinging to Danny before. I want to see 16-bit in drones, but we're not there yet.
Hey, Inspire 3's got to be coming soon, so put your wish list into DJI.
Or to Sean, one or the other.
Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. That's right. Okay, the high dynamic range, which
still nothing new there.
Still nothing new
so
there.
12.8 stops, I think it is.
12.8. And the night shots. So obviously the low light stuff. Was this a thing with the Mavic 3 Cine as well?
I don't think it was, but it's probably taken from the M30, which is just noise reduction built into the camera, I guess. But it'd be nice to see, give it a go. Yeah,
look, I mean, if it's one thing doing the video, but if you can get really nice night stills, that'd be quite impressive because I'm yet to see a drone that gets really nice night stills. The more flight time, obviously, is
still the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, having 46 minutes in the air is great, though.
It's funny. I was reading the terms and conditions. See how there's a little number 2 next to the 46 minutes, section. So it's 46 minutes to 0% in ideal conditions.
Right. Okay.
So realistically, like I guess as we always say, that's a usable 35 minutes.
So
maybe?
Yeah, probably about 35 minutes roughly.
I think we've all said,
good.
Still awesome.
If we get 30 minutes, we're all pretty happy. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, look, depending what you're doing, but there'd be not many things, particularly that you'd be using this for, that you would need to spend 30 minutes consistently in the air.
Yeah.
But it's still awesome to have that though if you need it.
Definitely.
Simplified flight. Oh yeah, so this is the obstacle sensing, which again is nothing new.
Yeah, so I might grab the drone just to show you that
they are
consistent. Yeah.
So what drone have you got there, Sean?
That's the Cine.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same.
Yeah. The same form factor. I think there's a 5 grams difference in the weight between the Cine and the normal and the classic.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big differences in the camera there, where you've got your telephoto.
Yeah.
But from a sensors perspective, they're exactly the same.
Yeah. The general guts of them all. I mean, they are all pretty much the same, aren't they? It's just the cameras have their slight differences, basically.
Yeah. And obviously the Cine has the built-in SSD and ProRes. expensive license to have for the codec.
Very, very expensive codec to have. But it serves its purpose in particularly, obviously, creative film realm.
Same thing there.
Yeah, the same thing with the obstacle avoidance and the advanced return to home. A lot of these are not new features, but this one is. Am I correct? But it's kind of like we said, it's the tap to fly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, cruise control. You know, if you're flying a straight distance for a long time, which I guess everything has its use, you just lock the course essentially. But it's the same thing that we had in the old Phantoms, where you just you have your course lock or you tap to fly.
Yeah.
It has its uses, but unless you're flying a straight direction for 2 kilometers and can see that whole way line of sight.
I was gonna say I think that'll be interesting to see how far we're going to be doing that, which we typically don't go past 500 to 750 meters. So
no. Well, that's it. I mean, it just gets hard to see after that point, and especially something small like a Mavic.
Exactly. O3 still the same as the last one.
Yeah.
It is worth adding that it is now compatible with the RC from the Mavic Mini 3. So you can use that RC across the whole Mavic line and the Air 2S line as well.
Yeah, okay. That makes it handy, especially for, I suppose you'd have to have them paired to each drone though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, all you do is go back to the main menu and just click which device you want to connect to. And it's all, once it's connected, it just syncs straight seamlessly.
That actually makes it pretty damn handy. If you've got a couple in that range, at least you can only have one. You can keep it to one remote, which is handy.
Exactly.
Then obviously, all these features. I mean, there's none of those that are new. No. We've seen them all before. Obviously, the typical accessories. There's the 2 controllers. So. For those listeners, does someone want to explain the difference between the RC and the RC Pro?
Price, big price difference. Main thing is the RC Pro, I think it was 1200 nits, which is the brightness of the screen. The RC standard is only, I think from memory, 700, which is like half of a standard smartphone these days. I fly with the RC all the time in the sun, middle of the day, morning, sunrise, sunset. It's perfectly fine to fly with. Some people say the range is less in it. I haven't had an issue with range at all.
I usually find the range doesn't really necessarily apply to us here in Australia. I mean, most of the time, like Sean said, we're not going crazy distances. And so a lot of the range limits for us are more or less non-applicable unless we're doing something we shouldn't anyway.
Exactly.
So there's a little picture of it there. Unfolded, and then we get it folded.
So I think it's important. The form factors of all of them are exactly the same. Including any events, sensors.
Most that brings down to what the difference is between them all.
Yeah, which it lays it out pretty obviously there. I mean, across the board, there's not huge differences. Obviously, the 1-inch on the Mavic 2, and the 1-inch on the Air 2S, but I mean, otherwise they're not huge differences.
Well, I guess the main difference is between the Mavic 3, the standard versions of the Cine and that versus the Classic. The only real difference is that telephoto lens.
Yeah, pretty much,
and the $500 price difference.
Yeah, I was about to say, and $500. That's pretty much the difference.
I guess if your Mavic 3 Classic $23.99 or your Mavic 3 $28.99, like you said, Danny, $500 difference. But then if you start adding the combos to it, then that's where obviously you're going to spend. I don't know what the current combo pricing is, but $500 is $500, isn't it? So
exactly, it all comes down to use case. Are you going to use a zoom lens? If not, go for the Classic. It's a great. It's, I wouldn't even call it entry level. It's kind of upper market now these days. Entry level is looking at you.
Sorry, definitely not entry level, right? We've just gone through the specs, and like you said, it's the use case of what you want. And if you're looking to get into drones, it's not a bad drone to get started with, obviously. So
not at
if
all.
you compare the Mavic 2 specs, which is right there, you're getting much better value for money.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, I mean, you know, for me personally, if I was out buying a drone for me personally, not for work, I think the Mavic 3 Classic's awesome because I'd never used the zoom. I never had a desire to use it on previous drones without it anyway. But it's for the price saving and stuff, it's not a bad drone.
Yeah, so I think, look, if you look at the Mavic 2 battery time, you never got 30, obviously, that's the spec. So that was about 20. You're getting about 20, extra 10 minutes on battery. And obviously getting much better lens and features as far as frame rates and what's possible. And
definitely.
clearly a lot more sensors than the Mavic 2. So yes, I think it really comes down to, like you said, Danny, do you need that zoom lens for the extra $500 or not? So it's as far as flying and safety and all of those features, they're the same. So,
they're identical.
I guess it's just another price point that DJI can really take over. Like they've got anything from the $1,000, you can get a mini SE for what, $500 or $600, all the way up to $8,000 with the Mavic 3 Cine.
Yeah. They've definitely got a wide coverage on the market.
Definitely.
Yeah. And if you do buy the Classic and you decide to upgrade to the Mavic 3, you can always hold the batteries, get rid of the drone because they're all compatible. So
yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Oh, well, that's one handy thing too for I guess people in regards to having maybe a fleet of them for work, especially with the enterprises and things like that. At least then you've got parts that are usable across every drone, which does simplify things a bit, which makes life easy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right on.
Awesome.
I guess the last question, as usual, guys, would you buy it?
Yeah, that's it. Would our listeners, are they rushing out to buy a Mavic 3 Classic, or are they holding on to their Mavic 2s and Mavic 3s?
I'd spend the extra 500. That's me.
I'm sure on this one, I'd spend the extra 500 and make use of that zoom.
I'm cheap. I wouldn't.
Also, Mini 3 Pro for the win.
He'll just put his on the shelf and go, mine shit. Let me fly your one, Sean.
Pretty much.
Well, I'm just thinking it's not $23.99 because you're always going to have to buy extra batteries.
Yeah.
And you're going to buy the combo. So, straight away there, you're spending more money.
Yeah, you'd be looking to have a full kit, you'd be looking probably around that 3K mark, just under.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty good.
For the technology you're getting crammed into that drone, around that $3,000 price point is pretty awesome.
Well, I'm pretty sure I paid around that for my P4 that I had originally when it came out.
Yeah.
I can tell you what, you get a lot more bang for buck now than you did then.
Dude, my P4 Pro, it was Obsidian I bought back in the day. I think I paid $2,800 for it. Yeah. And like when you compare to what you can get now in such a small form factor, there's a reason this thing sits on the
look
bench
what a
behind
beautiful
me.
paperweight it is now.
Exactly. It sits there to look good, and even then it gets covered by a microphone.
And dust, I imagine, being black.
I keep dusting them off, and the cat keeps walking by dusting them for me.
Well, we talked about monetizing your drone. If you're looking for your first drone, we've given you some options. Here's a great option. It's $500 cheaper. There's nothing wrong with it. Has all the features to do majority of the services we touched on in the previous episode. So
100%.
Exactly. And we'll link that episode right up here somewhere, won't we?
That's right. Yeah, we will.
Sean's on that.
No shameless plug at all. It's great.
Awesome. So it's a good overview, gentlemen. And I think we've shared who's buying which one. So we'll see what Santa brings us.
That's it.
So with that, thanks for your time. Don't forget to check out Wings Over Illawarra. Don't forget to subscribe and hopefully get a chance to win some tickets. And until the next one.
Peace out.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Guys.